Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Zach, and I am here with an album review for you guys. And this is actually one of several reviews. So, I will be reviewing the studio discography from Asia. Now, Asia, I would say, is one of my favorite bands at this point. They're a band that I definitely listen to a lot. I definitely return to their music quite often. So, I will be reviewing every one of Asia's albums. Of course, for those who don't know, Asia is a supergroup that was formed by prog rock legends. Of course, you have Carl Palmer on drums, who is from Emerson, Lake and Palmer. You have John Wetton, who was in UK and King Crimson. And you have Steve Howe from Yes. And you also have Jeff Downes in the band. So all these progressive rock legends came together and formed Asia. Now, this album, the first album, released in 1982, and this is, of course, a classic, and it is often considered Asia's best album. And for a lot of people, this is actually the only good Asia album, according to some people. Now, I definitely don't agree with that. I mean, if you think that this is the only good album in Asia's catalog, I would definitely encourage you to listen to the other albums, or at least re-listen to the other albums, and really give the other Asia albums a chance. Especially that John Payne era, which that era to me just doesn't receive enough love in my opinion, but the first album, the first Asia album, this was a really big album. Now, granted, I wasn't alive in 1982, of course, but when this came out, this was huge. I mean, this was one of the best-selling records of that year, and this was especially a big deal to the progressive rock community and fans of that genre, like fans of King Crimson, Yes, and Emerson, Lake and Palmer. This was all the hype if you were a fan of those bands back in the day, because again, you have these guys coming together and forming this band, and this was a pleasant surprise for a lot of people, for sure. I know that for some fans, they were expecting something a little more complex than the music that you got on this album, something a bit more progressive sounding, more complex songs. And there is some complexity to this album. There is some prog to this album, but it's not as complex or as proggy as a lot of people were expecting back in the day. And this was Asia's biggest album. And even though Asia's debut was so big and successful, I still don't think Asia as a band gets their just due. I still think that they're very underrated, and I just don't think that a lot of people really do appreciate what Asia has done in the music that they make, because I think they're a great band, and this debut album is very solid, and I don't see why people wouldn't like this album, especially if you're already a fan of this kind of music. Like, if you're a fan of the 80s eras of Yes or King Crimson, I don't see why you wouldn't like this. Like, if you are already into albums like Drama or 90125 or even Beat, again, I don't see why you wouldn't like this album, or just in general the 80s era of Asia, the original lineup of Asia, the first three albums that Asia came out with. And of course, this album is a big album for a reason. It has some of their biggest hits on it. Heat of the Moment and Only Time Will Tell are, of course, their biggest songs. And Only Time Will Tell is probably one of my favorite Asia songs, to be honest. And I even like the John Payne version of that, his cover of that song. That's really great. And of course, Heat of the Moment is Asia's biggest track. It's a song that you will still occasionally hear on the radio time to time, and when you listen to the song, you can definitely understand why it's a hit. And that's what starts off this album. Heat of the Moment, it is their biggest song for a reason. It's definitely catchy and memorable. And again, Only Time Will Tell, which is the follow-up track, the next track on the album, I really love that chorus, and that's another big hit for Asia. A great single from the band for sure. And then you've got Soul Survivor, which seems to be another fan favorite from this album. Great vocals from John Wetton, of course, and you got One Step Closer, another great track. Time Again, probably one of my favorites on this album. I really dig that song. John Wetton sounds good vocally, and the rest of the guys, they do great. And then we've got Wildest Dreams, which I think is a solid song. And then Without You. Now, Without You seems to get skipped a lot within the track listing. I know that a lot of fans kind of pass up on this song. They, I guess, view it as one of the weaker tracks on the album. For me, I've never had any issues with this song. I mean, it's nowhere near their best song by any means, but I've always liked Without You. It's a very melodic sounding song, and I think John Wetton sounds great. You could tell he's giving it his all vocally in that song. It's definitely good. And then Cutting It Fine, which is probably the heaviest song on this album, and probably the most proggy or complex sounding track on this album too. Cutting It Fine is a great song. This is another song that seems to get overlooked a lot from this album. I've always liked Cutting It Fine. And then this album closes off with Here Comes the Feeling, which I think is a solid album closer, and just in general, I think it's a very good track. So Asia's debut album, I think it's great. This is definitely their most commercial sounding album, and I know for a lot of fans, this is their favorite Asia album. Now, for me, it is my favorite Asia album of the original lineup of the 3 albums that they've done in the 80s, but my favorite Asia album in general? No. My favorite Asia album is actually from the John Payne era of Asia, which I know might be unpopular, might be controversial, but we'll get there when we get there, of course. But Asia's debut album is still great nonetheless. This is an album that I feel should be in every rock music fan's collection, and if you're a fan of 80s music, 80s rock, definitely check this out if you have not already. It's definitely great, and it's, of course, one of the best-selling albums of 1982, and it definitely deserves it. It definitely deserves it. I think it's that great, and yeah, definitely a great album. So if I were to give this album a rating or a score, I would give this album a 9 out of 10. Definitely great, and again, I think it's the best of the 3 albums that they've done in the 80s. So that's my review for Asia, the self-titled debut. It's definitely great. I can't recommend it enough. So what do you think of Asia's debut album if you've listened to this one? Feel free to let me know in the comments. So we will continue here shortly with Asia's second album, Alpha. So with that being said, thank you for watching, take care, and have a good one.